As part of 23 ABC's continuing coverage of Democracy 2012, we are talking to each of the local congressional candidates. And tonight we are joined by the challenger in the 23rd District, Terry Phillips. He is running as an independent. He is, of course, trying to unseat Kevin McCarthy, who is the incumbent in the 23rd District. And Terry, thanks for coming by tonight.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, let's talk about jobs. The economy, of course, is the big issue, not only nationally, but locally as well. And we had some unemployment numbers come out last week, which were more favorable here in the county, but there's a long way to go. If you were elected to the Congress, what can you do at the federal level to help with the job situation here?
Jobs are a long-term problem for us, and unemployment, of course, is also based in part on the fact that we have a lot of seasonal jobs here. But I think there is a long-term solution to jobs, and it all comes back to education. We have about 67% of our adult population with only a high school education or less, and they're chasing about 30% of the jobs. That's a big problem here. And even our college-educated population is about half the national average in terms of percentage. So I would put more federal funds into education, particularly in the area of Pell Grants for college students. A lot of kids can't even get into college because they can't afford it, let alone finish. So I think that's a big part of the solution, is focusing on education. But beyond that, we need to start forming more partnerships with our local employers. I see ads in the LA papers looking for people for jobs here. We aren't training enough people to fill the jobs that are available even now. And so again, I think it comes back to education.
How critical is it, do you think, to get more high-paying jobs in our county? Kind of the bedrock of our economy for a long time has been obviously blue-collar, just by nature of the businesses here. Is it important to get more high-paying, so-called white-collar jobs here in the county?
Of course, and just because someone is employed doesn't necessarily mean that he or she is earning a living. We have a lot of people, even here, even now, who are working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So good jobs are important. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy over labor unions, but one of the things that organized labor brought to the workforce was some of the rights that we have, including minimum wage. And yet, a minimum wage job today is barely enough to survive. So I think we need to look at the example that was established back in the 1930s and 40s, and that people need to band together and say, you know, we really need to earn more money for the jobs that we're doing. I was shocked to discover that our police force, the Bakersfield Police, have been working without a contract for almost 6 years. Yeah. You know, these are men and women who are sacrificing, risking their lives to keep us safe. I think at a minimum, we ought to be making sure that they have some job guarantees.
Okay. A lot of gridlock in Congress, as we all know. It's more partisan than ever, and seems to hamper what gets done back there. You would go in as an independent. Quickly, if you could, describe that decision for us and what you think you could do to ease the gridlock back in Congress as an independent if you got elected.
I am an independent. I started out in life in the party of my parents, as most kids do. I was a Democrat for a long time, but then I became a news reporter, and I thought it was inappropriate for me to have a public affiliation with either party. Mm-hmm. So I became unaffiliated, and I remained that way. And I find that all these years later, I really am an independent. The advantage of being an independent in this realm is that I don't have to worry about what a party wants. I can work with people from both parties. Unlike my opponent, who is a leader of his party, he votes 97% of the time along party lines. I would not do that. And being trained in conflict resolution, I can bring people to the table and get them to work together. We need that more than ever. The one thing I hear constantly from people is they're tired of the mess in Washington, and I really can help clean that up.
You mentioned your opponent, Congressman McCarthy, seeking his 4th term. Why would you be a better candidate than him, or more directly a better congressman?
Well, first of all, I have more life experience than he does. I like to quote Ronald Reagan, I'm not going to make my opponent's youth or inexperience an issue in this campaign, but I'm somewhat older than he is, and I've been a businessman much longer than he was. He had a sandwich shop here in town for a few years. I've had various businesses of my own for about 40 years. I've been an executive in the wireless industry. I've negotiated international businesses, and I have experience in politics too. Granted, much of that is covering politics as a reporter, but I've seen how the machine works, and I don't have the disadvantage that my opponent has of having to rely on big corporate donors to run for office. He's raised 100 times more money than I have. There are strings attached to that money. I think that's part of the problem.
Okay, Terry Phillips, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Todd.